January may be an extremely cold, damp and wet month. But interspersed between all that, you do get days like this. It may be cold, but the sun is shining and enables us to get some jobs done and get ahead. And by doing these 6 essential jobs, you shall be well ahead for the upcoming growing season. Hello and a very happy new year to all of you. Welcome back to the New Dig Norfolk Gardener. Now, as you can probably see, myself and Mrs. W have had our first major frost. Hence why I've got the hat on. Nothing to do with the sunshine this time, got to keep it nice and warm. Because there are plenty of things we can be getting on. You know, one of the biggest challenges of doing anything in January, of course, is the weather. Or at least I thought so. Let me take you back to this morning. We got up. It was extremely cold. Everywhere was much whiter than you see it now. We looked out of our front window and we saw some people that were coming to chop down some of the trees. Not completely down, but take some of the branches away. Mrs. W says to me, I have an idea. I was still drinking my morning cup of coffee. I'm going to go and ask them if they've got any wood chip on board. What a great tip, Mrs. W. That she did. As she went, asked them, they had half a van full. And very kindly actually dropped it off into our drive. So we got some free wood chip. And I shall put their name up on the bottom of the screen of the company, so if they're in your area, just go on their website. If they're working in your area and they've got some, pretty sure they'll do exactly the same for you if you need any wood chip. But it didn't end there. We needed to move Mrs. W's car. A car that hasn't been started for over 2 weeks and has now had a frost on it. And it didn't want to start. So the next thing to do, I have to put my cup of coffee down. And we have to go out there and push the car out of the way so that these guys can get in. So like I say, there can be many challenges to January. Some you won't even have thought of. But in all honesty, a big thanks to those two guys. They actually did give us a hand to push the car, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Which was great. And we duly got the wood chip. Now, aside from any cars that might not be starting, and any free wood chip that might be coming your way, I have 6 essential jobs that would be a good idea to get done during the month of January. By doing these, you can get yourself ahead for the upcoming growing season. The first job is that as any crops you have in your plots give up their final harvest, twist them out of the ground and cover your beds with compost. Now, we're no digs, so we aim for 2 to 3 inches of compost on top of our beds. That's enough to feed the soil life, which will in turn go on to feed our vegetable, of which the majority of the time we get 2 crops from the same bed. Sometimes 3, depending on what it is we're going to be putting in there. Of course, if you're not no dig, one of the disadvantages is that you can't dig your soil at the moment. -2 out here and the ground is very, very hard. So until it thaws, you can't do anything about your soil preparation. So yeah, tip number 1, prep your ground so that it's ready for the up and coming growing season. You won't be able to do it all. Myself and Mrs. W have got plants in the ground at the moment that will not actually harvest until April or May of this year. That's when they'll get their compost dressing. Now, on the days that you can't actually get out into the garden, it might be too wet, simply might be too cold, get yourself in your favourite seat in front of the old log fire, get yourself a piece of paper and plan where things are going to go in your veg garden this year. It's important to have a plan because that keeps you on track. It doesn't need to be absolutely bang on precise. There are many times I will come out and Mrs. W say, where are these going? And I'll look at my planner, well, they were going to go there, but this has not happened, so it needs to go here. But at least if you have a general idea of where things are going and what you want to grow, and really importantly, I know we normally talk about succession planting in May and June and July, but January is the best time to start. If you actually get yourself another piece of paper and overlay it onto that, redraw your squares, and now put on there what's going to succeed your first plants. And then of course that leads nicely on to the fact that now you have a plan, you need to order some seeds. So go through those catalogues, see what seeds you want to order. Look on your plan, where are they going to go? Are you going to try something new this year? Maybe a new vegetable, maybe a new variety. I know myself and Mrs. W do. Every year we try to find 3 or 4 new varieties, whether they be tomatoes, a different variety of potato, cauliflower, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But it keeps us invigorated because we actually want to see how does that particular variety turn out. Now next, January is a great time to look at the infrastructure in your garden and make any running repairs that you might need to make. I know myself and Mrs. W have 2 or 3 fence panels that we actually need to, well, I don't think we can repair them now. I think we're going to need to get new panels. They've taken a battering over the last 12 months. They're not going to fall down yet, but they are starting to lean over quite a bit. And the sooner we can address that, the better. Things like sheds. I know the one that we have at the other end of the garden, all the fascia has come off, hasn't it?
Yes.
So we just need to get a new bit of fascia on there, stop the weather getting in. Jobs like that are great to get out of the way here in January because, believe me, it will soon be February and it will soon be March and it will soon be April and you'll be all consumed with keeping up with the sowing, getting your plantings out. What am I going to sow next? There will be so much to do. That's getting these jobs done now will just put you ahead of the game when it comes to that sowing season beginning. Now I know, Mrs. W, that our grandchildren have been out here because
Yes.
Poppy's ball is stuck in here.
And Poppy wouldn't have got it in there.
No.
That's great.
By now you should have already have pruned your blackcurrants. December is the time to do that. But it's not too late if you still need to do it, but get it done early in this month. But in January, it's now time for the red currants and the gooseberries. They're really simple. You don't need to make it a difficult job. You look for the stem. This is the stem. And off these stems comes these branches. You can already see where the new growth is going to come from. But if we leave this like this, this will become this by the time we get to July and August, which is what we don't want. So any of these stems we just want to prune by 1/3. They will continue to grow as we get into the new growing season. Also, if you see any crossing branches, take them out.
That one there is a crossing branch, isn't it? You could take that
Yes.
out lower.
Exactly. So what I'm going to do is to take this out all the way down to here. And it's also a good demonstration of what you want to do with old wood. Can you see there? That is old wood. It's not new wood. You can tell by the colour of it here. You want to take out some of the old wood. This will encourage it to make new shoots from the bottom and keep your bush going. Whether it be a red currant, a black currant, a white currant or a gooseberry, you're always looking for a goblet-shaped bush so the air can get down through the middle. Now I pruned this last year You can see this has come up, so this will come out, this will come out, this one will come out here, so that it just leaves a nice goblet shape. In that way, the wind can blow through, the breeze can blow through, and that will help with any disease issues that you might experience if you didn't do that. Now, when it comes to all of your soft fruit, they all need feeding. Now, you can do this job anytime between January and March when they start to come into growth once more. But I like to get this job out of the way with during the month of January. I know the job is done, it's ticked off my list, and I no longer have to worry about doing that when I'm going to be really busy sowing those seeds and planting my new plants out. Last year, myself and Mrs. W used some well-rotted horse manure. And actually we got one of the best crops from the raspberries that we've had for some years. But you could use anything like your own homemade compost. I've managed to acquire some mushroom compost for this year. Well-rotted mushroom compost. And that is what is going to feed all of our soft fruit this year. We often think about our vegetable beds and how we need to feed the soil there. But where your soft fruit is, there's just as much soil life. They need feeding too in order that your soft fruit can thrive. You can already see here, look, the raspberries, these are autumn fruiting raspberries, they're already beginning to send up some new shoots. I would expect to see those probably die off between now and March, but if we remained relatively mild, it could be a case that they get away really quite quickly. Mrs. W's bought me a welcome cup of mulled wine that we had left over from Christmas. Warmed up on a day like this. Now, this is by no means a definitive list on things that you could be doing during the month of January. It is just 6 I've picked out that I think are absolutely essential. But do leave us your comments. Let us know other jobs that you will be doing. You may consider another job also an essential job, and let's share it with our gardening community so that we can all learn from each other. However, I actually consider probably the most essential and the most important job that you can do during January is to get as many of the beds covered with the compost as possible. As much as that you can get done during the month of January, February, the more prepared you'll be ready to go when the time comes to set out your lovely new vegetable plants. I can see from here that I've got a bed down there. Actually, I've already put the compost on there, but that's ready to go. Actually, the one next door to it, that's shortly going to be ready for me to be able to do. I've only got about another 4 cabbages to harvest from there, and then I will be able to do that. The last beds to go actually will be the one beside Mrs. W, where the purple sprouting broccoli is, and the one the other side of her, where the cauliflowers are there for April and May. Everything else, over the next couple of months or so, we will be enjoying their harvest. And then, of course, it's then time to prep that ground so that we're ready to go once again. By doing these 6 essential jobs, you'll be well on the way to a thriving veg garden as we approach the new growing season. Thanks for watching. I'd love to hear, as I said earlier, your feedback, the jobs that you're going to be able to do. And if you're new to our channel and you think this Jobs for the Month will be for you and serve as a timely reminder as we go through the months of the coming year, then do make sure that you are subscribed. And of course, to hit the bell icons. In that way, you will be notified whenever myself and Mrs. W upload a video. Have a great rest of your gardening week. We shall see you on the next one.